All right. So we have that ADU guy, Derek Sherrell. How are you doing, man? Good to see you.
Hey, I'm doing awesome, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. I appreciate your time. I'm sure everybody else does that's going to be viewing this as well. So how's the snow been these days?
Hey, it's been great. Winter in Southern Oregon is a great time. When there's not a good day to build, it's probably a good day to ski. So I've got a little rule. If there's 4 inches of fresh snow or more, you probably won't find me or be able to get a hold of me because I'll be up in the mountains.
Good. I hope you stick to that. I hope you stick to that. It'd be a little cold for me, man. I'm down here in Southern California, so I'm
Nice. Well, we'd have to surf down there and ski up here. How about that?
sounds good. I'm in for that. So I have to ask, how was meeting Mr. Pace Morby?
Pace a pretty cool dude. I didn't, I've only spent a little bit of time with him. I met him at an event down in Central California, and it was super duper obvious why everybody loves that guy. Like, there's a cult following around what he's done, not just his culture of sub two and his students and his mentorship, but he's just one of those people. I could probably count on one hand the people I've met in my life that just kind of have that charisma, that have that kind of genuine sense of communication where you just know they're a good person. I spent
Yeah,
maybe 5 or 10 minutes talking to him, and I don't really follow a ton of his stuff. I'm definitely a fan of what he does, but I'm not in any of his mentorships. I'm not in that sub two community. But still, I was like, whatever you're doing, I want to do too. Like, I'll follow this guy anywhere. And he's super humble. He talks a lot about his parents and how he was raised and doing right by people. And I think that just shows there's so many people in this space that have that same kind of servant's heart, but not everybody can express it easily and effortlessly like he does. So it was pretty neat to meet him. It was a VIP luncheon, and super genuine dude, looks you in the eye the whole time you're talking. Gave
amazing.
me a cell phone number and said, hey, if I can ever help you, give me a call. Like, stuff that you usually don't expect people that busy to do.
Awesome. Yeah, he seems super interesting and very, very intelligent. Yeah, I'd love to meet him. That's awesome. You got to spend time with him.
Yeah, I
So
would I would tell you, if he's ever at any event in your area, if it's like a real estate meetup or a conference or something, he's as approachable as it gets. So if he's in an area near you, go, and I'm sure you'd have no problem meeting him and having a conversation.
definitely. What jump start you into your ADU journey?
I started building ADUs in high school. Really, I was in this kind of misfit group, and our woodshop teacher saw the potential, or maybe the lack thereof potential, in our futures, and he started this trade class, and we built an illegal ADU for another one of our teachers. And trades just came natural to me. I didn't really want to go to college at that time. I didn't have any aspirations of wearing a suit and going into business. So I just started building because I was good with my hands and I didn't have a whole lot of other options. I ended up building housing for others, for other people, other investors, for the first several years of my career, before I realized that I could potentially use housing as a vehicle to create my own housing and my own wealth. So I started by necessity, and I stayed because one, I believe in housing, and two, it's a really, really amazing career. The two things I've done in my life, I've been a builder and a fireman. So I always tell people, what better ways could you spend your time than, helping people, maybe not always saving lives, but really trying to save lives and build housing. So I'm pretty lucky to be able to say those are my two main career paths.
That's awesome, man. That's too funny too. My parents, they had their house built by a firefighter, and he owned his own construction company as well. That's too
Oh,
funny.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. That's, firemen and women have a lot of time off. So got to have a second or third job.
Yeah, I played sports myself, but I got into the construction along working a job. I had a daughter young, so I got into construction as well. And then I just started getting into, once my parents built their house, I kind of started learning about it and just fell in love with it. So I'm glad to have you on answering these questions.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, totally. I was definitely a builder before I was an investor, and now that I'm an investor, I'm still a builder. And it's such an advantage. I mean, for you, for other people that are listening, like, if you have the understanding of the building process and the construction trades and the lingo and the price estimations. Like it's such a competitive advantage against so many other people. So I see a lot of, higher level investors that say it's negative. Don't work on your own houses. You get attached to them. It's not the greatest and best use of your time. And in some cases, for some people, that may be true. But everybody that I've ever seen in a small to mid scale, it's just a huge advantage to kind of have that tool in your toolbox as an investor.
Great point. Great point. So for those who don't really know what a ADU is, could you explain that and some of its uses?
Yeah. So an ADU is an acronym for accessory dwelling unit, and it really is just a second or third dwelling accessory to a main house. So it's going to be built on a lot that was primarily reserved for single family houses. I call it the cheat code to wealth. It's how we build small multifamily and single family residential zones. Not that there's anything wrong with a multifamily zone, but it's usually going to be higher traffic. It could be closer to the downtown center or closer to transit. It could be higher crime, but really it's just going to be more dense. So if we use the ADU strategy, we can build these small second or third, either attached or detached units on these lower density areas where, again, traditionally they were set up for single family homes. And now we're able to infill that land. And some of the uses of these are going to be obviously for needed infill housing. So they're not making any more land. A lot of cities do not want to expand. They don't want to do the urban sprawl. They have to fill in the community they already have, and it's cheaper and more efficient because we already have infrastructure. There's already sidewalks and sewer mains and fire hydrants and street lights and sidewalks. There's all the infrastructure's there. We have these big backyards. Let's just put a little bit of housing in them. So needed infill housing is number one. We can use them as an investment vehicle. You can put your child with a disability in it. You can put grandma. You can put your mother-in-law. I know somebody who built an ADU with their wife for one of the two to live in. So one lives in the house, one lives in the ADU. Not everybody's cup of tea, but that doesn't sound bad to me, right? We can use these for rental housing. Some people build them in some areas if they can meet the standards. They build them for short-term rentals. You can downsize as you grow older and move into the ADU and rent the main house. You can rent your house and go travel the world and keep all your belongings in the ADU and have a home base there. So really the possibilities are endless.
Man, I love that. I love that. And that was going to be my next question was, can it create wealth for anybody? And you just nailed it right there, man. That's one of the opportunities that I'm looking into myself is to be able to buy a house and put the ADU on the same property. So that way, at least it can offset some of the costs. And then from there, my investments could grow,
Yeah, totally. So I help teach people how to eliminate or greatly reduce their number one expense, which is housing, right? We've got housing, food, and transportation are usually the top three. Housing's always at the top on every study I've ever seen. So if we can buy a house that's maybe right at the edge of our affordability, but it has, a basement apartment that we can rent out for $1,200 a month, that might be, anywhere from 25 to 75% of your mortgage, depending on the area that you're buying in. So a huge tool is using that to offset mortgage in order to save more money so you can invest. It's not about how much money we make, right? It's about how much money we keep. So If we can reduce our housing expense and have that money freed up to, pay down high interest debt or to go deploy and buy rental housing or go buy index funds, whatever it is, you're going to get a lot farther if you have more capital to invest.
Agreed. So how would somebody like myself go about getting started their ADU journey?
Yeah. So I always tell people the easiest way to get into an ADU is at purchase. It really is. So if you find a house, ideally, my favorite kind of trade secret is to look for a property that has an illegal, unpermitted ADU in an area where ADUs are allowed, so you can get it permitted. So in other words, you can get a discount on the house because it has this non-conforming use, basically a problem that you're going to solve. And you can go to the closing table with 30-year fixed rate, low down payment products and get into, for all intents and purposes, a duplex. So I always tell people to look for ADUs, have your realtor set an alert for anything with an ADU, I would go to every site, whether it be Redfin or Realtor.com or Zillow, and do keyword searches for bonus room, in-law suite, ADU, guest house. Just start sniffing out every listing, start turning over every rock. I like to look for places that have bonus rooms. A lot of them will have a house with maybe a detached garage that's maybe it's called a studio or a bonus room. And those are usually keywords for me that mean illegal ADU. And if you look at the last couple pictures on the listings, there's usually a couple really vague pictures of that studio or bonus room. And you can usually see like a little kitchenette, or you might see a sink in the bedroom, which tells you it's probably an illegal studio. And then obviously you can try to purchase that place. So that's what I would tell people to do. If you already own a home, can you convert your garage to a small unit? Can you convert your master bedroom? Can you wall off the door and put in a simple one wall kitchen and turn your master into a studio, and then the rest of your house into a 2-1 or a 3-2 or whatever is left over from what you started with?
Yeah, that was a great perspective.
Would be things I would tell people to do, and things that I currently do myself. Like everything that I advise people look into are strategies that I currently use.
That's awesome. And I've never really heard looking at a property that already has an illegal ADU. I mean, that kind of slipped my mind, honestly. I was just looking at properties that had the room or the potential maybe inside square footage. But yeah, looking for homes that may have an illegal ADU already set up. Man, that's
or any part of a home that's kind of split level or away from the other parts of the house, or any area in the home that already has a bathroom. A kitchen is super easy to put in. You just need an 1.5-inch drain, hot and cold, some GFI outlets. You can run hot and cold lines and electrical anywhere up over anything. But the plumbing is the big deal, because the waistline, that 3-inch line for your toilet, needs to be on grade, 1/4 of an inch a foot. It's got to fall out towards the lateral where it goes into the street. So it's really a lot more cost effective if you just have to add the other stuff and the bathroom's already there.
Well, how do you feel about 2 stories that are about equal in square footage from top to bottom? How do you feel about turning the bottom one into a unit and the top one into a unit?
Yeah, that's totally doable, especially for first-time buyers or somebody that's on a budget. Basement conversions, you can buy a house with an unfinished basement that you're probably not paying taxes on, but all the infrastructure is there. You finish it off and you turn it into a unit is a good strategy, because the footprint's done, the roof is done, the walls are done. You're literally just doing the finishings. One thing that I do like to mention is you're going to have a harder time renting it. I personally stay away from over-unders. I don't do over-under ADUs because they're too similar in design and price to multifamily. So it's going to be, there may be in metro areas, it may not be as big of a deal, but in kind of a small, trendy mountain towns or coastal towns, you want to set yourself apart. So if you have an over-under ADU and that's the way you were able to buy your house, go for it every time. But ideally, you want something that's shared wall, soundproofed, or detached. And the reason being that over-under, you're going to have noise and vibration transfer, and you're going to be appealing to a client that's more used to renting a multifamily space. So you're also going to have more competition because there's a lot more multifamily apartments, right? Whereas if it's detached, or if it's side by side with an insulated soundproof wall or sound resistive wall, you're going to have a higher demand, lower supply product.
Okay. What do you see like is the biggest reoccurring issues?
Probably the zoning laws and requirements, which are getting better every day. I know that like in California, you have some of the best ADU legislation in the country. Oregon has great legislation, but some cities and states don't have overarching legislation, and they say you have to have a conditional use permit to do one of these, or you have to have an off-street parking spot for the ADU, or you have to get approval from every neighbor within 250 feet. There's all these kind of old arbitrary laws and rules that dictate the feasibility of an ADU. So I'd say right now it's probably codes, ordinances, legislation, homeowner associations, stuff like that.
Awesome. All right, Derek. before we take off, is there any encouraging words or anything that you would like to say to anybody watching, just to kind of help them out, maybe encourage them on their way?
Yeah, I would say if you're interested in building or converting or buying an ADU, to start telling everybody, hey, I'm looking to build an ADU. Hey, I'm looking for a property that has an ADU. Go to local real estate meetups. Tell everybody, hey, I'm looking for a house with an ADU. Has anybody done one? Has anybody bought one? Has anybody built one? So anytime you want to do something, go into your local network or create your own network, create your own ecosystem, look for people that have done what you want to do, and then go add extreme value to them and ask them how they did it. So for example, go to a real estate meetup, ask around for anybody that's built an ADU in their area. Say, hey, I'd love to take you to lunch. And, I work for a restoration company. I can come over and make sure you have no mold in the rental that you just bought. In turn, would you tell me how you built an ADU in said county? So just start telling everybody what you want to do and look for somebody that's already done it, add value, and have them teach you. You can also check out my website, ThatADUguy.com. I have a ton of free resources on there. Under my resources page, I have free ADU plans. I have other competitors of mine, other people that do ADU consultation and outreach. Their contacts for different states are on there. So just a kind of a good landing spot for resources. There's a ton of information out on the interweb, right? There's probably 150 YouTube channels about ADU building. Mine's one of them, ThatADUguy on YouTube. But I would just say start consuming the information. It's all out there, but look for people that have done it and do your free studying via the World Wide Web today. And in no time at all, I'm not gonna say you'll be a full-blown expert, but you'll be close.
That's great. That's great. That's why he's one of the best, everybody. Thank you again, Derek, for coming and talking with me today. I hope we stay in touch, and good luck with all your projects.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.